Alright, so in today's video, we want to look at what numbers are. But before we go into numbers and how to use some basic mathematical operators on them, we want to first of all see where we will be saving our code. I am on Linux, so we'll go ahead and come to where I have my folder. I go ahead and click on that. So my Linux Explorer has been opened. If you're on Windows, go ahead and use Window E to open your Windows Explorer. And once you are there, locate any place that you want to save your folder. Anyway you want to save today's code, make a folder of your choice and go ahead. But in my own case, I already have where I'm saving all my files for this series. So I want to open up my folder where I've saved all my work. So learning Python, click on OK. Alright, so something that you notice is that I already opened I click on folder and I ask it to open. It opens, but automatically I didn't see it in the sidebar. So in this type of situation, go ahead and hit Ctrl B or Command B in order for you to collapse out the sidebar, so you see this sidebar coming here. Alright, so once to name a new file, because we want to look at numbers for today, so I go ahead and click on this tiny small plus icon that you are seeing here, and I can give my modulo name numbers.py. and don't forget to stop the extension on the .py in this particular case. Okay, so let's look at what numbers is. So if you are writing, you can start writing something down. So what are numbers in Python? Of course, you already know we use numbers in everyday activities. We use numbers for mathematical competitions. We use numbers for data visualization. We use numbers to store data in web applications. We use numbers nearly in everything we do every blessed day. So it's not really something that is hard to understand. So but what we want to look at now is, well, we understand what numbers are. So examples of number can be 1, can be 2, can be 3, can be 0 point whatsoever. But these are all numbers in Python, but Python treats number in different ways. So what are the ways? So let us look at types of numbers. In this particular case, we have two types of numbers. We have integers and we have float numbers. So let us look at them one by one. So we already mentioned that we have integers, and we have float numbers. Okay, so integers number in Python are simply those numbers with no decimal point. When we are talking about integers number, they are refers to all the whole numbers that are whole number. They don't involve decimal point. Example, we have 500, we have 1, we have 350, we have 6, we have any number that is not in decimal point is called integers. So in other words, what are float numbers? So float numbers are simply numbers with a decimal point, whether it's 0.5, 4 point whatsoever, but once it has a kind of decimal point, that is referred to as a float number in Python. So these two types of numbers, you can still use Python operators on them and they'll work successfully well. So let us quickly look at the types of operators we already have in Python here. So we have addition sign, as you already know. We have subtraction, we have division, we have multiplication, we have exponentiation, we have modulo, and we have double division. So I want to quickly run through examples of how we can use some of these. So let us start one by one. We have addition. Okay, so addition, you already know what addition we use it to do. We use it to add two numbers, whether adding two integers number or adding two float or adding integer to float. You can use addition. So example of how we can do this in Python is, let's just say 3 plus 4. As you already know, the answer is going to be 12. So if we do Ctrl A and Ctrl plus A5, you can see that the result pop out to be 7. So one thing I really need to point your attention on is, if you have been following our series in the previous, talked about saving your code first before you run it. So just in case this is the first time you are glancing on the channel and you landed on this video, before you run your code, if your attempts to see the result in the terminal, always use Control plus A or Command A to save your code. That is the first thing you should do. And if you are typing your code like this, how will you know that you have saved your code or not? One example of how to know that you have successfully saved your code is when you look at the top. If you are using Visual Studio Code, once you look at this small where you have your modulo name inside, you discover that there is this small whitish icon that is showing up here, indicating that, oh, all the codes that are inside this file, that you have not saved them. And once you hit on Ctrl S and save it, you see that this small white icon is gonna disappear. As you have seen, I hit on Ctrl S and the thing disappeared. Just in case if you don't want to use that shortcut Ctrl S, you can come to File, you see where you have save, you hit on that and you are going to save your code inside here. And whenever you want to run on it, you want to see the result in the output, first of all, you need to wrap your code in the print. And once you are done wrapping your code with the print function, print simply means you are telling Python, I want to see the result in this terminal. This is terminal here, as you can see, this is terminal. So once you want to see the result in the terminal, go ahead and wrap your code with print function and go ahead and hit Ctrl plus A5 for you to see the result. But I kind of like to use the shortcut method of Ctrl A5. But if you don't want to use that, go ahead and drag your cursor to where you have this tiny icon in Visual Studio Code. Hit on that. Visual Studio Code is gonna process your code and give you the result in the terminal. So many times your terminal will just get full and filled up with results that are popping up. Just go ahead and right click on clear, or you can just type the keyword clear like this. So with that being said, let us continue from where we stopped. So we just looked at how to use addition. So we are looking at how to use subtraction like this. So okay, so just trying to leave some examples for you to just follow along. Okay, so we can just simply say print and we say 10 minus 5 here. So if we hit on this Ctrl plus F, as you can see, the result comes out to be 5. So we can do this with multiplication, and multiplication in Python is using asterisks. Okay, so let me show you how multiplication is using this asterisk. So if we want to multiply two numbers, we can go ahead and say 10 times 10 times 2 like this, and automatically 10 times 2, that's supposed to be okay. So we print, you see it's 20 from here. That's how to use multiplication. So let us see how we can use division. In just gonna drag and drop to save time. Okay, so if you looked at this right now, this is exactly how you can see. This is the division operator. So 12 divided by 4, if we hit Ctrl S, Ctrl plus A5, you see that we have 3.0. So we use this to automatically divide two numbers. But we divide this, if you looked at this, these are integer because they are whole number, they are no float point. But when the result came out, Python gives us results as a float point number, as you can see here, 3.0. So if we want to divide a number and we don't want Python two integers, and we don't want Python to give us the result as a float point number, go ahead and use double division sign here. Once you hit on Ctrl plus F, as you can see here, the result comes out to be just 3. Let me go ahead and clear the screen so you can see clearly. Just go ahead and lift this up a little while. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 3 alone instead of 3.0. so the double division operator here is basically used to divide two possible integers without having the result comes out as a float point number. So that is the work of these two division sign. Okay, so we have exponentiation from here, and exponentiation you can use in place of raising to power. If you want to raise a number to a certain power of a certain number, go ahead and use the exponentiation. And exponentiation in Python is just simply using two asterisks like this. For example, let us assume we want to raise 3 raised to power 2. So go ahead and use two asterisks like this. If we hit Ctrl S to save, Ctrl plus S 5, you see we have 9, which is 3 times 3. Okay, so let us look at modulo here. We have another operator called modulo. Okay, so modulo. Okay, so modulo here is used to get the value of a remainder. Let's say that you are not too interested with dividing a certain number. You don't need whatever the whole number is. In this our particular case here, if we hit on Ctrl A, 7 divided by 3, as you can see, the remainder is 1, because if you divide 7 in 3 places, divide 7 in 3 places, is going to go twice, 6, and the other one makes number 7, so 1 is going to be the remainder. So the modulo operator here, its work is just to give you the remainder. So something I want to show you here is when we are assigning numbers, we have different ways of assigning numbers. So the first number is the one that you already know, the one we talked about, assigning variables, which we can say here. We can say num1 equals to 300, and num2 here equals to 400, and we can go ahead and just simply print num1 and say num1 num2. Alright, so if we do like this, hit on Ctrl is to save, Ctrl plus A5, we have the results to be 700, and as you can see, I'll process that again, 700, as you see, because we added these two numbers. This is one way of assigning variables. Though the second method I want to show you can be confusing, and me personally I don't use it, but just in case as you are glancing through someone's code you happen to see it, I don't want you to be confused. I just want you to understand that that person is using another method and assign to variables. Okay, so what is this second method? Second method is about, let's say, something like, say, num1, and we put comma, say num2, we put comma num3. Okay, so we just go ahead and said go ahead and put equal sign here and said 400 and 500 and 100. So Python automatically would understand that we are assigning 400 to the first number, 500 to the second number, and 100 to the third number, even when we are assigning these numbers to these variables in a kind of linear, a kind of straight line, one horizontal line. Python will still understand it. So if we go ahead right now and just print num1 and plus num2 and plus num3. Alright, if we go ahead and print this to see the result, you discover that we have 1000, which is exactly 400 plus 500 plus 100 is equals to. In short, if you want to see that Python understand the order in which we want it to if we want to see whether Python understand that 400 is for num1, go ahead and just try something like this. As you can see here, Python understand that the first value is for num1, second value is for num2, and third value is for num3. So that's the reason we have 400 here. So just in case you see in people's code, don't be confused, don't freak out, just automatically know that it's the same thing with what you know and what you have been doing here. Alright, with that being said, I also want to show you another way of assigning and calculating values, assigning variable and calculating values at the same time. Oftentimes you see something, you'll be doing something like this. Let's say A, you assign 500 to the variable A, and let us say that you have a new value. Let's say you have an 600 and you want to add 600 to 500. So you define another variable, which is A. In fact, this can be anything. Even if you said B like this, it can be anything. But let me, for the sake of what I want to show you, you give another variable A like this. A equals to, this is a very brand new variable, and you call this your A here. You can see this your A. You call this one A here, and you now add a new a new number like 600. Okay, what is happening here is that, in fact, for clarity purposes, let me show you something. Okay, so what we do here is, first of all, we assign the value 500 to first variable a here, and this a here we assign a brand new, we have another brand new value here which is 600, and we want to add it to this 500. So we now call this our a here and add this new value that we wants to add here, and now assign it to a new variable. And in order for us to see the result, since we have pushed the result to this variable b here, now we go ahead, hit Ctrl A and Ctrl plus A5, we see 1100. But you will see that many people, especially in programs that you will be seeing, if you are not the one writing, you see people would try to like use the same variables in the same places. For example, this is a they use in defining that hold the value for 500, and they now bring this a, now a plus 600, like the new value plus this 500, and they are assigning it to a new value a. I don't want you to be confused when you see things like this. Just automatically know that this a and this a are not the same a. This a holds the value of 500, while this a holds the value of 600 plus this 500. That's the reason I'm showing you this exactly. And if you go ahead and hit Ctrl A and Ctrl plus A5, you have 1100 from here. And this is kind of a long method where people use in writing code. So Python provides a kind of shortcut method, which is something that you'll be seeing often as you are programming, and you'll be using often when you start understanding your code. And that's exactly what I want to show you here. And the shortcut method here is, you said a equals to 500. Okay, let's go with 200 this time. Okay, a equals 200, and automatically we now say a plus equals to we give a new value which is 600. So we now say print a. Okay, now look at what is happening here. Now instead of us to give a new variable, since we already know that we want to give a new variable, and that our new variable is going to be the same name with what we want to use, so there is really no point. So Python give us this kind of shortcut operand here that we can just say plus and equals to. So what plus and equals to is doing here is it carries the new value which is 600, add it up to this 200 to this a, since the representation is still the same thing, add it up with this 600, and automatically still turn this a again. Even when it has added, now it's going to be 800, 600 plus 200 to be 800, still turn this again to be the variable. So 800 now, 600 plus 200 is still, even when we have added, is going to the result is still going to be stored in this a. And if we go ahead and print this a right now, you see we have 800. Now, let me just comment that out so you see. So the result now is gonna be 800, as you can see here. So once you see this in people's code, I don't want you to shake, I don't want you to feel bad. I just want you to understand what they are trying to do, and if possible, based once you start understanding how to manipulate your codes and write it in short forms, you go ahead and start writing. I want us to jump into order of operation in Python. So once you are dealing with numbers, dealing with the operators, what you need to understand is that Python also supports order of operation. For example, if we said something like print, and we said 3, we said plus 1. Okay, 3 plus 1, and we say 3 plus 1 times 4. Okay, this can be very confusing. I want to show you exactly how you can be solving conflict like this and ease yourself with the confusion. That's exactly why I'm pulling up this example. So in this particular case, Python is going to start from the multiplication side of it, and after solving 1 times 4, it was now going to assign that new value and use an add. In fact, if we run this Ctrl A, Ctrl plus A5, we see the result is 7. But if you are not too familiar with maths and you are writing your code, sometimes you can be confused in this particular place. You might start from here and do your own calculation by saying 3 plus 1, which is 4. 4 times 4, 16, and the whole of your program is just going to run, but the result would be something you didn't expect. So in order for you to be on a safer side and forget about all these order of operation and where you want your code to start, or where Python worried yourself on where Python is going to start and where Python will not start, just go ahead and wrap all your codes where you want Python to start processing your code in brackets, as simple as that. So what we can possibly do here is go ahead and call the print function, okay, print, and just say instead of starting from multiplication, start from the addition. So we can go ahead and say we wrap our code here inside bracket and say 3, we say plus 1. Okay, so after that we now call the multiplication sign and say times 4. So now if we go ahead from here, hit on Control A, on Control plus A5, and as you can see, the result is something that we want, which is 16. Okay, which is 16 from here. So this bracket automatically make Python to understand and say okay, wow, you are telling Python, forget about whatsoever you know, forget about how you wanted to process it in your own way, do it my own way, this is how I want it. So once Python encounter these brackets here, Python is going to shut down every other method and start from where the bracket is in processing your code. I hope that makes sense. But if you still have some questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer that. So another thing here is that if you intend to have long numbers, for example, you want to have something like 1000000, you can go ahead and to avoid the confusion, you can go ahead and just use underscores to differentiate your code. For example, let me say we call this long number. Long number equals to, we say 2 underscore 3 underscore 0 underscore 0 underscore 0 underscore 0. So what's going to happen if we print this number? Is Python going to add the underscore if we print this number? No, Python is not going to print, it's not going to add the underscore. Instead, Python is going to remove all these underscores and just print our number with what as you have seen here. So but in my own case, I love using some kind of method to make sure that instead of doing this, I separate my code with commas. So in order for you to separate your code with commas, we already talked about if strings. So if you don't understand what that is, go ahead and watch that video for strings. You understand what if strings are. So once I have my if strings like this, I will just go ahead, I'll come here and let's see. Okay, so this thing that I'm putting here, I put a colon and a comma here, where I have, this is the variable here, long number, this is the variable that I'm putting here. So what I'm doing here, basically I'm telling Python, format this my numbers in the thousands comma separators. So if I go ahead and hit Control A and Control plus A5, as you can see here, Python is going to start from here and count 1 2 3 and put comma and start 1 2 3 and put comma. Suppose in this number we have long number, that's exactly how Python will keep counting and keep putting comma for us, which can be very, very convenient for us to understand and for readability purposes. So that's something that I wanted to show you in today's video. Another thing here is that you can also define constants to hold the numbers in the when you are dealing with numbers. For example, we can say something like max figure, and it can hold whatever number that you want. And remember that once you are defining any variable with all capital letters like this, it simply means that you don't want this variable to change throughout the lifespan of a program. So if you have taken something out, you like the video, go ahead, just give the video a thumbs up. It's just gonna promote the video, and if you want to continue seeing something of this nature coming your way, consider subscribing to the channel and turn up your post on notification, that anytime I post a new video, you'll be the first person to receive the notification and come down to just look at this.